If you are new to regulatory affairs or exploring whether this field is right for you, this video is part of a beginner foundation series. In this module, we will focus on the medicinal product lifecycle. By the end of this session, you should understand what the medicinal product lifecycle means, why regulators think in lifecycle terms, and how regulatory affairs support a medicine throughout its life, not only at approval. You don't need any prior regulatory background to follow along. We will use plain language and focus on understanding, not procedures. Let us begin by clarifying what we mean by the medicinal product lifecycle. The medicinal product lifecycle describes the entire journey of a medicine, from the earliest stages of development to long-term use by patients. This journey does not begin at approval, and it does not end when the product reaches the market. Instead, it is a continuous, regulated process in which the medicine may evolve, the evidence supporting it continues to develop, and regulatory responsibilities continue over time. From a regulatory perspective, approval is not the finish line. It is one important checkpoint in a much longer journey. So, why is it important to think about a medicine as something that continues to evolve after approval? Regulators think in life cycle terms because approval is not the end of learning or change. When a medicine is first approved, the decision is based on the best available medicine at that moment. But knowledge continues to develop after approval. As a medicine is used in routine clinical practice, additional information about its safety and effectiveness may become available over time. The product itself may also change. For example, changes may affect manufacturing process, production sites, material suppliers, product information, approved use, or other aspects of the product, its supply, or its regulatory management. These changes are not necessarily caused by patient use. They may arise from scientific progress, manufacturing needs, supply considerations, new evidence, or efforts to maintain or improve product quality and availability. Life cycle thinking provides a structured way to assess both new knowledge about the medicine and changes that may affect the product throughout its life cycle. Throughout the life cycle, the central regulatory question remains: does this medicine continue to have a positive benefit risk balance for patients? To see how this works, let us walk through the main stages of a medicine's life cycle. The first stage is development. This is where the product is designed and studied. During development, companies generate scientific evidence to understand what the product is, how it works, how safe it appears to be, and whether it shows potential benefits in patients. From a regulatory perspective, development is about building the evidence foundation. The evidence generated during this stage forms the basis for later regulatory assessment. Once sufficient evidence has been generated, the product reaches a major regulatory checkpoint. Registration, sometimes called marketing authorization or approval, is the stage where a regulatory authority evaluates the submitted evidence. In Indonesia, this regulatory approval is commonly referred to as an izin edar, issued by BPOM. The regulator assesses whether the available data are sufficient to allow the product to be supplied to patients under defined conditions. Approval does not mean that the medicine is perfect or risk-free. It means that, based on the evidence available at that time, the expected benefits are judged to outweigh the known risks for the proposed use. Approval is therefore an important regulatory decision, but it remains part of continuing oversight. After approval, the medicine begins to be used more widely in routine healthcare practice. During market use, the medicine reaches a much larger and more diverse patient population than it did during clinical development. Clinical studies are conducted under defined protocols and carefully controlled conditions. Routine clinical practice is different. Medicines may be used by a wider range of patients in different healthcare settings, alongside other treatments and under patterns of use that are more varied than those seen in clinical studies. Because of this, additional information about the medicine's safety and effectiveness may become available over time. This does not mean that clinical studies are incomplete or that the medicine is being tested without control. It means that broader use can provide information that could not reasonably be observed before approval. The product must also continue to be supplied according to its approved conditions. Regulation, therefore, does not pause after approval. As knowledge grows and the product continues to evolve, the medicine enters the longest phase of its life cycle. Post-approval lifecycle management often lasts much longer than the initial approval process. It includes activities such as monitoring safety during real-world use, assessing new information about effectiveness, managing manufacturing, quality, or supply-related changes, updating product information when new evidence becomes available, and maintaining regulatory oversight as the product and its use evolve. Many post-approval changes require regulatory submission, commonly known as variations. Changes do not automatically mean that something has gone wrong. Medicines, manufacturing systems, scientific knowledge, approved uses, and supply arrangements naturally evolve over time. The purpose of regulatory oversight is to ensure that relevant evidence and proposed changes are properly assessed and managed. Across regulatory systems, this life cycle logic is widely shared. In Indonesia, BPOM provides national regulatory oversight, while other countries have their own authorities performing comparable roles. This continuing work raises an important question. Where does regulatory affairs fit across the life cycle? Regulatory affairs supports regulatory work at every stage of the product life cycle. During development, RA helps teams understand regulatory expectations and provides regulatory advice to support development planning and evidence generation. This advice may help teams consider what evidence may be needed, how regulatory expectations may affect development plans, what regulatory risks or other uncertainties should be addressed, and when interactions with a regulatory authority may be useful. During registration, RA coordinates the submission and supports communication with the regulator throughout the review. After approval, RA helps manage regulatory changes, updates to product information, ongoing regulatory commitments, and communication relating to safety, quality, effectiveness, and supply. Regulatory affairs does not make approval or other regulatory authority decisions. Instead, RA helps ensure that regulators receive clear, appropriate, consistent, and up to date information to support their assessment. Within the company, RA also provides regulatory advice to help teams understand requirements, evaluate regulatory implications, and manage product related decisions and changes appropriately. This is why regulatory affairs is a long term, judgment based profession rather than a one time submission role. Let us bring these stages together into one final takeaway. The key message from this module is simple. A medicinal product is regulated throughout its entire life, not only until it is approved. Life cycle thinking recognizes that both knowledge about the medicine and the product itself may evolve over time. It provides a structured way to assess new scientific and real world evidence, changes affecting the products, its manufacturer, supply, or use, and continuing regulatory responsibilities. Regulatory affairs support this process across development, approval, market use, and post approval management. Throughout this journey, the central question remains whether the medicine continues to have a positive benefit risk balance for patients. In the next module, we will build on this life cycle view by looking at how regulatory submissions support regulatory decisions at different points in a product's life.